Hi, welcome to another FinFlow podcast today. Our topic is, well, imagine this. Just one single three-digit number. And it basically acts like this hidden gatekeeper, to huge moments in your life, buying a house, getting a car loan.
Right, the big stuff.
Exactly. And maybe even like renting an apartment or landing certain jobs. It's always being looked at behind the scenes.
Yeah, but people often don't really get how it works, do they?
That's the surprising part. So many people don't fully understand it, or more importantly, how they can actually influence it.
It is fascinating, though, how something seemingly simple has such profound financial implications.
Oh, well.
And, how much control you do have once you kind of grasp the mechanics.
Absolutely. So for this deep dive, we've gathered some great source material that really lifts the hood on this number.
Yeah.
Your credit score.
Okay.
Our mission is pretty straightforward. We're going to break down what it is, why it matters for way more than just borrowing money, and give you a really clear, actionable path straight from this material on how you can start boosting yours, like today.
Yeah, think of it as taking the reins, right? Making it less intimidating.
Exactly. Your shortcut to controlling that hidden gatekeeper. So let's jump in.
Let's do it.
First things first, what is a credit score? The material lays it out really clearly. It's a three-digit number, usually somewhere between 300 and 850.
And its main job, fundamentally, is to predict risk for lenders.
Right.
It tells them, based on how you've handled credit before, how likely you are to pay back money you borrow. Higher score means lower risk to them. Simple as that.
And the source points out that FICO, that's the big one, FICO, over 90% of top lenders use it.
Yeah, so when you hear credit score, odds are it's a FICO score they're talking about.
And those scores fall into different buckets, right? The guide maps it out. Exceptional is 800, 850. Very good, 740, 7999.
Then you've got good, which is 670 to 739. Fair is 580 to 669.
And anything below 580 is generally seen as poor.
And look, if you've had trouble getting loans or cards approved, understanding where you fall in those ranges, that's usually step one. Your score is probably the main reason.
Yeah, it's not random. It's tied directly to this number. But, okay, while it's crucial for borrowing, this source makes it super clear its influence goes way, way further.
This is where it really starts to hit home, I think. It's not just if you can borrow, but critically, how much it costs you. The material uses this really powerful example comparing two people getting a $300,000 mortgage.
Okay, so person A, strong score, say 780. Person B, maybe a fair score, like 620.
Right. The difference in the interest rate they might get, it's staggering. Person A might snag 4.5%.
Which is pretty good.
Yeah. But person B, with the lower score, they could be looking at 7.5%.
Wow.
And over the 30 years of that loan, the source calculates that difference. It could cost person B an extra $100,000.
$100,000. Just because that three-digit number difference, that one example right from the source, it just shows the immense power here.
It really does. And the impact doesn't stop there. The source mentions landlords checking your credit for rentals.
Right. I've heard that.
Some employers for certain jobs, even insurance companies in many states, use credit-based scores to help set your premiums.
So it's this kind of silent influencer affecting where you live, how much you pay for car insurance, everything.
Pretty much. Understanding it gives you leverage. It's financial empowerment, really.
Okay, so let's get into the mechanics. What actually makes this FICO score tick? The source breaks it down into 5 main things, weighted by how important they are. This is where you get control.
Okay, number one, the absolute king. Payment history. That's a massive 35%.
35%.
Yep. Simply put, do you pay your bills on time? Every time.
And it's not just about the good stuff, right? The material really hammers home how bad missed payments are. It warns that just one late payment can drag your score down for up to 7 years.
7 years. Yeah, combine that potential damage with the huge percentage. It shows why this is the absolute most critical factor. Pay on time.
Seriously. Okay, what's next?
Second biggest piece is amounts owed, or what's often called credit utilization. That's 30%.
Right, the ratio.
Exactly. It's how much credit you're using compared to your total available credit limit across all your accounts.
And there's a key number here the source highlights. Isn't there like a threshold?
Yeah, 30%. Using more than 30% of your available credit, that starts to hurt your score significantly. Lenders see it as risky.
So, quick math. If you have $10,000 in total credit limits, you want to keep your total balances under $3,000.
Exactly. And the material actually suggests aiming even lower if you can, ideally under 10%, to really give this factor a boost.
Under 10%.
Got it.
What's after utilization?
Next up is length of credit history. That's 15%. Basically, the longer you've managed credit responsibly, the better. It builds trust.
Which leads to that kind of counterintuitive tip the material emphasizes. Keep old credit cards open, even if you don't use them much.
Right, because closing them can actually shorten the average age of your accounts, which can ding your score. Common mistake people make.
Okay, good to know. What else?
Then we have new credit at 10%. If you open a bunch of new accounts really quickly, that can slightly lower your score.
Why is that?
Because each application usually results in a hard inquiry on your report. Too many of those in a short time looks like you might be desperate for credit. So the advice is, apply only when you really need it and maybe space out applications.
Makes sense. And the last 10%.
That's credit mix, also 10%. Having a healthy mix, maybe some credit cards, an installment loan like a car loan or student loan, shows you can handle different kinds of debt responsibly.
So variety helps a bit.
It can, yeah. It's not like make or break, especially if your history is shorter, but it contributes positively. So those 5 things right there in the source material, that's the recipe. Focus there and you can influence the score.
But hang on, before you jump into fixing things, let's bust some common myths this material points out.
Yeah.
Because bad info can really send you down the wrong path, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Myth number 1 people often believe, checking your own credit score hurts it.
Totally false. The source is explicit. Checking your own score is a soft inquiry. It has 0 impact. Same if a potential landlord or employer checks it with your permission.
So you absolutely should check it. Don't be afraid to look.
Right. Myth number 2. You have to carry a balance on your credit card, pay interest to build credit.
Ugh, this one persists. Also false, according to this source. You build good history by paying on time. Carrying a balance just means you're paying interest, which is, well, usually not a good financial move. Pay it in full if you possibly can.
Please do. Okay, myth number 3. Closing old credit card accounts boosts your score.
Nope. We kind of touched on this, but the material confirms. Closing old accounts often hurts your score. It reduces your available credit, which bumps up your utilization ratio, and it shortens your average account age.
So keep them open, maybe stick them in a drawer, but don't close them just for the sake of it.
Exactly. Avoiding these traps, which this source helps you do, is just as vital as taking the right steps.
So how do you actually see this score and the report that fuels it? The source reminds you about your rights.
Yeah, you're entitled to 1 free credit report every 12 months from each of the big 3 bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion.
And the official website for that, the one the government set up, is annualcreditreport.com.
That's the one. Secure, free, the place to go.
And the source also mentions lots of other places now offer free scores, right? Like credit card companies, banks.
Yeah, tons of them do. And apps like Credit Karma or Credit Sesame, they often update more frequently, which can be useful for tracking changes.
Okay, so you get the report. What then? The material says the critical thing is to actually read it carefully.
Right. Scrutinize it. Look for errors, wrong balances, accounts listed twice. Look for accounts you don't even recognize that could be fraud. And just clearly see what your balances are, what your utilization looks like on each card and overall.
It's that old saying, right? What gets measured gets managed. You can't fix it if you don't know exactly what's wrong or where you stand.
Precisely. Which leads us right into the action plan. If your score needs some help or you just want to push it higher, this source material gives a really solid 7-step game plan.
Okay, step 1. And this feels foundational. Pay on time. Every single time.
Cannot stress this enough. Set up auto pay, put reminders in your phone, whatever it takes. Consistent, positive payment history is everything.
Step 2, pay down those balances. Focus on the cards with the highest utilization first.
Get that overall utilization below 30% and ideally, like we said, under 10%. This can give you a relatively quick boost.
Step 3, resist the urge. Do not close old accounts. Keep that credit history length working for you.
Step 4, and this is a smart tactic. Think about asking for a higher credit limit on cards you already have.
Oh, interesting. How does that help?
Well, if you've been paying responsibly, call your card issuer. If they grant you a higher limit and your balance stays the same, your utilization percentage instantly drops. Quick win.
Ah, clever. Okay, step 5.
Dispute errors. If you found mistakes on your report back when you checked it, follow the Bureau's dispute process. Get that inaccurate stuff removed so it's not dragging you down unfairly.
Definitely important. What about for people really struggling to get approved for anything?
Step 6 addresses that. Explore getting a secured credit card. This is where you put down a deposit, usually equal to your credit limit.
Okay.
It's much easier to get approved for, and it lets you build that positive payment history safely. The source highlights it as a really solid rebuilding tool.
Good option. And step 7.
This one's interesting. Potentially become an authorized user on someone else's card. Maybe a family member who has great credit habits.
How does that work?
If they add you and they use the card responsibly and pay on time, their positive history with that card can sometimes show up on your report and help your score. You inherit their good habits, basically. But be careful who you link up with.
Yeah, I got to trust them. So the big takeaway from all these steps in the source, it sounds like it's consistency.
Absolutely. Improving your credit isn't usually a quick fix. It's a marathon built on consistent positive habits over time, not a sprint.
Right. And since it's a marathon, how long does this stuff usually take to show results? The material gives some timelines, right?
It does. You might see smaller improvements fairly quickly, maybe 30 to 60 days, especially if you correct errors or pay down a really high balance. That utilization change can reflect fast.
Okay, so some quick wins are possible.
Yeah. Then, over maybe 3 to 6 months, if you're consistently paying on time, keeping balances low, that steady good behavior really starts to build momentum in the scoring models. They see you're reliable.
And for bigger jumps, if you're starting lower.
For major increases, the source suggests it can take, 12 months or even more of sustained good habits, keeping those balances low, always paying on time, avoiding any new negative marks like collections or defaults.
So patience and assistance are key.
Definitely. But the core message here is, starting sooner means you get those benefits, the lower interest rates, the better approval odds faster, taking control of your credit. It's genuinely one of the most impactful financial moves you can make for your future.
It really sounds like it. It opens so many doors.
It absolutely does.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does this deep dive into the source material really boil down to for you listening right now? Your credit score. It's not some fixed grade you're stuck with.
Not at all. It's dynamic. It reflects your financial habits. And as this guide powerfully shows, you can absolutely improve it.
So the material issue is a pretty clear challenge here. Take that first step, do it today, check your score, check your report for free, annualcreditreport.com.
Yep. And then identify just one thing from everything we've talked about. Maybe high utilization, maybe a missed payment habit, just one thing that might be holding your score back.
And then commit this week. Based on what you learned here, take one concrete action to start addressing it. Set up that auto pay, make an extra payment, call about that credit limit increase. Just one thing.
Because honestly, as this dive has shown, that future house, that car, or just having more breathing room financially, it might really depend on the score you build starting now.
So the final thought to leave you with, your credit score is a reflection of your financial habits, and it can absolutely be improved.
The question is, based on everything we covered today, which habit are you going to focus on first?